saying, oh, well, there's Rick Barry being Rick Barry. No, I was just telling the truth. People don't like to hear the truth.
I am 74 years old. I watched basketball for 50 years. I was in the building when the greatest players of this era proved what they were, and when they were quietly unmade. I held press credentials in arenas that have since been demolished. I sat close enough to hear what coaches said during timeouts and what players whispered to each other when they believed no one was listening. Rick Barry did not just play this game, he solved it. And what that solving required, what it methodically stripped away in the process, that is the story nobody ever tells completely. People talk about the 1975 championship. People celebrate the technique. Nobody talks about what I watched happen on May 16, 1976, in a building in Oakland, from a seat 12 rows behind the Warriors' bench. Nobody has been fully honest about that night, or about what that night revealed about the man. Nobody has told this story the way it actually happened, until right now. Stay with me, because what I watched happen next, nobody has been willing to say it plainly. Not once. Not in 50 years. In 1974 to 1975, Rick Barry was the most complete offensive force I had ever seen inside a basketball building. The Golden State Warriors that season had no business winning anything. They were role players, rookies, and cast-offs assembled around one gravitational center. Barry averaged 30.6 points per game. He led the entire league in steals at 2.9. He ranked 6th in assists at 6.2. Every possession ran through his hands. In the finals, he swept Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld and the Washington Bullets 4-0. He won Finals MVP. He dragged a collection of ordinary men to the summit of professional basketball through sheer, unrelenting force of will. I watched 2 of those finals games from press row, and I remember thinking I was seeing something the conventional terms of the sport could not properly explain. His free throw was the symbol of that mind. The underhand shot. Playgrounds mocked it for decades. His father drilled it into him from childhood. Barry resisted initially because he was ashamed of the stigma attached to it. His father told him something that became the operating logic of his entire existence. Son, they can't make fun of you if you make them. Barry's career free throw percentage was 89.3% across the NBA and ABA combined. In the 1978 to 79 season, he shot 94.7%. He made 60 consecutive free throws. He was right. Demonstrably, mathematically, undeniably right. And being right in every room, on every subject, in every building he ever entered, was the only currency he recognized. It cost him. It cost everyone around him. In 1967, fresh off leading the NBA in scoring, he defected to the American Basketball Association and signed with the Oakland Oaks because of money and because his father-in-law, Bruce Hale, was coaching there. The Warriors sued him. Barry sat out the entire 1967 to 68 season, a prime year of his athletic peak, wasted in a courtroom. He was immediately branded a mercenary, a man who viewed team loyalty as a category of inefficiency. The label followed him back into the NBA and never fully left. Robert Parrish began his career with the Warriors, and his assessment of Barry was short and chilling. He was always looking down at you. Barry kept a personal recliner in that locker room, a lazy boy. Only he was permitted to sit in it. His teammates used standard benches. He told the Chicago Tribune years later that he was not an easy person to get along with and that he lacked tact. He offered it as a confession. It was actually an understatement from a man who spent years rolling his eyes at teammates on national television every time they missed a shot he felt they should have made. Game 7, May 16, 1976. Western Conference Finals. Golden State Warriors against the Phoenix Suns. The Warriors were defending champions, heavy favorites. I had a seat 12 rows behind the Warriors bench that night, beside a man named Gerald from Sacramento, maybe 60 years old, wearing a Warriors jacket from the year before. Gerald told me before tip-off this was a formality, that Barry was going to carry them back. Early in the first quarter, Barry drove hard and a rookie named Ricky Soares fouled him. Hard. A melee erupted. Barry and Soares grappled. Punches were thrown. And crucially, Barry's teammates did not move. They stood there. They hesitated. I was 12 rows back, and I saw it clearly. The leading scorer on the defending champions was alone on that floor. Gerald went silent beside me. After a long pause, he said quietly, "Those guys don't like him." He was not wrong. And Barry saw it too. Here is what people say. They say the Suns switched defenses in the second half. They say they schemed to take the ball out of Barry's hands. They say he responded tactically and his teammates failed to capitalize on what he set up. Here is what actually happened. Barry watched the halftime tape. He saw his teammates standing idle while he fought alone on that floor. He walked back out for the second half and made a calculation. He stopped shooting. Every time he received the ball, he passed it immediately, regardless of what the defense offered, regardless of what the moment required. He took 19 shots in that game. His series average was 24.5. The Warriors lost 94-86. The Suns advanced. The dynasty ended. The man who dragged cast-offs to a championship in 1975 chose not to drag anyone anywhere in 1976. A championship was sacrificed to make a point about what happened when his teammates left him standing alone. That was not a tactical adjustment. That was a message delivered at a cost no one else in that building was asked to pay. What I came to understand over the years that followed is that May 16, 1976 was not an aberration. It was a window into something that had been operating quietly for years. The same logic that governed that second half governed his home. The same calculation. I will withhold until you prove you deserve me ran through every relationship Rick Barry ever tried to maintain. He had 5 sons: Scooter, John, Brent, Drew, and Canyon. 4 played professionally. He was absent for the formative years of the first 4. His first wife, Pam, the daughter of his college coach, Bruce Hale, raised those boys largely alone while Rick pursued his career and moved into new relationships. The estrangement became so complete that when one of his sons played in the 1988 NCAA championship game for Kansas, Rick and Pam had to sit on opposite sides of the arena. Their son was on the floor of a national championship game. His parents were managing the building like a property line dispute. Scooter Barry said he heard from his father once or twice a year. He said he had to act as though he did not have a father, because essentially he did not. That was not something I have ever been able to forget. Rick justified the absence by claiming he did not want to make his sons nervous by attending their games. Scooter answered that directly. He said the nervousness excuse was created so Rick did not have to show up. John Barry said they never sat down and worked on basketball together. Not once. Drew Barry said his father had nothing to do with the kind of player he became. A man transmitted genetics and took credit for what those genetics produced in the care of a woman who was present every single day. Rick's own words. He felt very fortunate to have as good a relationship with his sons as he did. He said nobody could call him a bad father. Scooter said he had to pretend he did not have one. What Rick Barry taught me, without intending to, without knowing it, is that the same refusal to compromise that produces greatness can make a man permanently unreachable to the people who need him most. He stripped the variables out of his free throw because variables meant vulnerability. He eliminated every motion that could be degraded by doubt or emotion. That produced 89.3% from the line. That produced a championship. That also produced a man who could not modify himself enough to sit in a gymnasium and watch his own sons grow up without calculating what it would cost him to be there. Children are not free throws. Presence cannot be optimized. And a man who treats human connection as a mechanical system requiring correct inputs rather than a living thing requiring sustained, unglamorous attendance, that man will one day look around and find that the room is empty and the quiet is permanent. I am 74 years old. I watched basketball for 50 years. Rick Barry made 60 consecutive free throws. His son Scooter heard from him once or twice a year.